Hey, welcome to the Shoemakers Academy. Hey, it's Wade. We're down in the workshop today, and we're going to cut apart some shoes, and we're going to have a look inside. If you enjoy seeing what is inside the shoes you buy, then check out the Shoe Material Design Guide. If you're a designer, a developer, a product manager, and you want to, get a look at what Nike and Adidas really put inside modern shoes, well, this is the book. You'll see that we have cross sections of over 30 different shoe models. And then, of course, we talk about spec sheets and outsoles, midsoles, tooling, foam, mesh, fabric, all the materials that go into shoes. We cover it here in the Shoe Material Design Guide. If you're a Spanish speaker, we've also got something here for you too. Okay, let's get to it. All right, so today we have a pair of barefoot style shoes. And this is a shoe trend that's very popular. And there's a few things generally that people are looking for, which is the wider footprint and then the thinner sole. I'm not going to get into why this may be good or not good for you, but we'll talk about that later. But here we have a pair of shoes. Now, this actually is kind of a non-brand brand, and these shoes are in full disclosure. I just bought these on Amazon. And this is how they came, which was quite a surprise to me. But I guess I should be expecting these things. So, okay, they're in plastic. So, of course, you could probably pack these, I don't know, 3 times denser than you can a regular pair of shoes in a shoebox, maybe 4. And then, of course, what's the cost of a poly bag versus the cost of a shoebox? A shoebox could be, at the very minimum, 50, at the most, $1. Of course, the most $10 for a fancy one, but generally your standard shoebox is somewhere around 75 cents. And what's this? Probably about 7 cents. So here we are. It's come in plastic, but let's just take a look here and see what we got here. Okay. So, first things first, before we get too far into this, first thing I noticed is it has this really, colorful outsole. And when you look at this, you can see this outsole tool has color dams in it, right? So this deep groove here, right, that is a color dam. So if you went into this mold in production, you could put a specific piece of color into that section. But that's not what they've done here. What they've done here is they've taken the raw, uncured rubber and they've just made colorful sheets and they've laid it into the mold and cooked it off. So you can see that the rubber just bridges over all the color dams. So that's just one way, one way you could create some more interest for a particular colorway if you want to have something a little, loud and proud or whatever. Okay, so we're going to take this left side and put that away. Well, actually, let's keep looking at it both. Now, okay, of course, because these shoes came in a poly bag, they're a little bit crushed, but we're just gonna primp them up a little bit here and take a look. So first things I notice looking at these, granted, the design here, there's not a lot of stitching. They are a little bit crushed. And so when we start looking at, quality, obviously how you package a shoe, it's going to say a lot about how your customers perceive it when it arrives. Now, again, these shoes are kind of flat and soft and you don't have that much shape. So the fact that they came in a poly bag, I don't know, maybe I should have been expecting that, maybe not. But here we do see, the heel counter. It does have a heel counter in it, not terribly rigid. But you can see the shoe is deformed. Now, okay, by the time you put it on and wear it around, it'll probably be straightened out. So now we're going to just start looking at other things. They're clean. The stitching, it's a little bit, generally you should be looking at alignment, but because these things are a little bit deformed coming out of the box, that it's going to be a little bit difficult to say, yeah, they're the right level or they're straight, and they're not, because they're all kind of manhandled and smashed here. Are these back tabs straight? Sort of. You can see that they've got a lot of alignment marks on it, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, it helps the workers align the parts. If they're making lots of different models, then you're going to want alignment marks to make sure everything's straight. Now, of course, you know, this shoe has an alignment mark in the middle of the eye stay, and it's kind of asymmetrical, but okay, whichever. I mean, these little tabs to help you pull it on, I guess. But the stitching, generally, it looks okay. There's a little bit of, you know, a little variation between the edge and the stitch. The edges, material-wise, they're cut relatively cleanly, not terrible. You know, I'm a little bit put off by the fact that these colors don't match each other, but again, you know, that is how the shoe was depicted, you know, on the product listing photograph. It did show that these colors didn't match, so that is accurate to the photograph. You know, it is interesting how there actually is no brand on the shoe. I mean, I can't remember what that logo was, but there's no name of the shoe. And actually, that's one thing on the bottom of the shoe. There's no branding on this, so this outsole could be used by any shoe brand, basically. Okay. So, but again, this is your barefoot type shoe. And the goal of these things is to have a nice wide foot, which we see they've covered, and to be very flexible. Yeah. You know, this shoe, again, I don't see loose threads. The stitching quality looks okay. Mostly not great here. Let's have a little plastic toggle on the lace thing here. The tongue's not gusseted. I see a little bit of reinforcing material here behind the eye stay. That's good news. Let's pull the footbed out. Okay. Sports. All right. And okay, now we have a regular old cold pressed EVA footbed with this little diamond pattern. You know, not anything, you know, spectacular, unique, or different. You know, it's 4.5 millimeters thick in the front. You know, that's not too far out of bounds. Let's look inside, and we can see it is a stroble, which you'd expect. And you know, it feels like, and again, this is a barefoot shoe, so we're gonna cut into it. Feels like there's pretty much nothing underneath it's got a padded stroble, but we're gonna cut into that and see. So this may be the padding of the shoe. So you know, if you're overweight or you have any biomechanical problem, you may just want to be careful with this. Okay, so let's get into it and see. So we do have an engineered mesh. This is symmetrical to the shoe. So this is a custom knit. The tongue just looks like regular old knit. The accent pieces are look like microfiber. They do have a woven backing on it, which is for material this thin, it's actually pretty good, because that way, if this was just microfiber, inexpensive microfiber like this is, when I say microfiber, I mean polyester fiber. These polyester fibers have been compressed together, kind of like a felt, but with a little bit of glue to hold it together. So this kind of microfiber, because this is relatively inexpensive microfiber, if you don't have a backing on it, it will stretch. Okay, so let's go ahead and get a look inside. So as we get ready to cut the tongue, I see we've got a little rubber TPR logo. That's cool. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this. We'll cut these out of here so that we don't get tangled up in the shoelaces. Actually, this is not a bad effect here. They've got a little Velcro patch to hold the lace kit on, and that little Velcro patch is also a lace keeper, which I guess you'd have to because otherwise you're going to end up trying to put your tongue patch on top of laces. So that's actually not a bad idea. All right. Now before we start cutting, what we want to do is we want to run our hands on the inside. Now I can see the collar here is pretty wrinkly, and we'll peel that back and see, yeah, the quality of the backing foam here, and the tongue is pretty wrinkly. So the quality of the backing foam here, it's pretty low density, and that's why it's pretty much caved in and not looking that great. And this I stay reinforcing material, well, it is glued down. Good for them. Okay. All right. Well, let's get into this. So what we've got right here in the tongue is a little rubberized logo. And these logos are made kind of like, it's almost like making pancakes. The mold is open-faced. And you just pour the liquefied plastic into the mold. And then you just put it in a little cooker, and it cures the rubber. So you can see the front has the logo design, and this is actually the bottom of the mold, and you can see the back of this part is glossy. That's actually the upper surface of the part when it's in this little mold. And this little piece, there's probably 30 of them on a little metal plate. All right. So we got the shoe open here. Okay, and we see we've just got a stroble. There's a couple of gaps here, but the stroble, I mean, that's fine. There's nothing too big a deal here. And let's go ahead and generally you wouldn't be able to cut a shoe, a regular shoe with just a pair of scissors like this, because there'd be a midsole. But because this is a barefoot style shoe, there's nothing there. We are literally just cutting right through the rubber. You know what, I'm actually going to grab a little bit sturdier pair of scissors here so we can cut this nice and clean. So we want to make sure, because this is going to go into the new course and the new book that we're working on. So we want to have a nice clean cut. And we'll go right down the back of the heel counter here now. And we want to get a good look at the heel counter. Granted, a shoe like this doesn't have to have a very sturdy heel counter, because you're pretty low to the ground, so you're already a little bit more stable. And you're not likely going to roll your ankle out of this because you're already on the ground. Okay. So, and here's actually what we're going to do now too, is I like to do this. Is I want to go ahead and just mark this. So that we can see the cross section of all these pieces here. So we'll just go ahead and follow this line here. And we'll get a look at the cross section of this whole footbed here now that we've made this cut. So there's a little bit more cushioning, but basically I want to be able to lay this in here so you can see exactly the kind of cushioning that we have here. Now, this shoe has a little bit thicker outsole rubber. It looks like what, 6 millimeters maybe, 7. So yeah, that's generally pretty thick. I mean, this is the high wear area, so you're going to need it. I'm sure, because this is kind of a 0 drop kind of deal, so it should be pretty close to the same. So yeah, 7 altogether. Basically padded stroble and foot 8.5. Okay, so that's the other part of this type of shoe, is that the sole is the same thickness. This is, you know, kind of zero drop idea, right? Same thickness in the heel and the forefoot. Now, this does have a slightly more conventional footbed, so you can see that it's about, you know, 4 millimeters in the front and 7.5. So okay, so you end up with sort of a 3 millimeter drop. All right, so that's what the cross section of this looks like. So we're gonna look at a few things here. We'll set that cut section aside here, and I'm going to look at this, and we'll start tearing into this. So I see a couple of things here that I'm not super thrilled about. Is this how long this is, right? So this is where the tongue is attached, and you've got this little flapper here. So I would prefer that it's either glued down or something so that you don't have, I mean, you're not going to feel it necessarily on the top of your foot, but to have that long piece of useless fabric sitting there, not great. The tongue construction, you can see they're knit, and they've actually glued a little non-woven, laminated a little non-woven to it. And that's actually, you know, there's a couple of things here. With this kind of knit fabric, you have to laminate the back somehow, whether it's with PU film or PVC coating, to keep because this net is so loose it will just distort, right? So you have to put something. Usually they laminate it to a piece of foam. In this case, which you see like right here, right? You see how this has face fabric and it has a little tricot lining on it. Usually you'd see something like this on the face fabric, but they haven't done that. Why, I don't know. But on the back here, you can see that they've done that. So here you've got this sort of lycra-looking elasticated mesh here with the foam and the tricot. So that makes the tongue. Okay, nothing too special there. Okay, now they have reinforced the eye stay, and we'll just peel the tongue back a little bit here. We'll just undo some of the stitching, and this stitching actually, we'll look at both sides in a second here. It's pretty important because if you don't attach the tongue correctly, you're gonna lose your tongue. And what we're looking for is, have they doubled it or back stitched it, right? And you can see that they have. If you look pretty closely, you can see that there is some back stitching on there. So it's unlikely that this tongue stitching is gonna unravel. That part looks okay. So now that we're sort of a little bit deeper inside, nothing more special about the tongue other than you can see the back of the rubber piece. Okay. Now we're gonna look here at the eye stay reinforcing. So you can see, you know, this kind of computer knitting. This actually is one piece of fabric, right? There's no lining or backing or anything. This is the back of it. This is the face of it. And they've gone ahead and they've put a little reinforcing on the eye stay. Now, this eye stay of the shoe has a little, looks like 3D print or RF, when I say 3D print, but layered print or a little RF welding. And there's a little dimensional detail to it. So that's actually pretty decent effect. And they've gone ahead and they've welded or bonded another piece of non-woven. Now this isn't the super strong, like super tough, but between the microfiber and the upper mesh and this layer of PU back here, basically these eyelet holes are not gonna tear out. That's pretty good. Okay, so now we want to look, and we're going to start to peel this back here. And well, let's see here. I don't think the best way to do this. We're just going to start. Well, yeah, we'll peel the outer mesh away, and I want to get a look at the heel counter of this shoe. And this looks like it looks like chemi sheet. So it's basically a fibrous board that's got a little bit of plasticizer resin infused to it, and then they've just laid it in. So basically, this is cheap is cheap stuff. And you know, for a shoe like this, you're not really expecting to have a nice firm heel counter. It's pretty soft, but it's a flat piece. It's pretty shapeless. Um, there's no kind of cupping or contouring. This kind of material, basically how it's solvent activated. So what that means is that when they're getting ready to assemble the line, close the lining on the shoe, they'll take this piece and either dip it into a bowl of solvent, or they'll take a little brush and brush it with solvent, and that'll make it a little bit soft. And as you glue it into the shoe, then it can be forming. But there's really not. It's really not a fancy shoe material. Not very nice, actually. And then, so it's stuck in there. That's fine. And then we have a little piece of collar foam, pretty soft. You'd like something a little bit denser here. I mean, you know, they start with about 10, and then when you sew it down, it compacts a little bit and it can make a little bit firmer of a design. So it's not the worst. Not the worst. And then let's just pull this back. And this is what I'm trying to look for here, and what I want to know is kind of get a feel for what type of glue they used on the shoe, because there's a couple of different types. We like to look for hot melt glue, but this more looks like your sort of standard PU cement. So that kind of PU cement is not very breathable. It saturates the fiber and it can soak through. In this case, I think we're okay. All right. So not that much there, but yeah, it is kind of, you know, kind of wrinkly in their bonding process, and whether maybe the pattern wasn't very tight, and still it's a little bit loose there. Not, you know, not terrible, not great either. Okay. Now I'm looking up here and I see that we're not all the way glued down here, and whether the last and outsole don't fit together exactly, or there's a little bit of scuzz under here, but we're going to peel it back to try to get a look for it, because I mean, that kind of gap is not great, because that's where it will start to separate. And whether this was, you know, when they were doing the assembly, the worker, you know, I mean, this sole kind of wraps. So when you go to put this together, you got to be careful that you land it in the right spot, because it's contact cement. And if you don't quite land it in the right spot, then you're going to end up, you know, trying to wrap this all around, and you might miss. But what I want to look at here too is just, did they take the effort to really glue it all down? And this is peeling up relatively easily. Does that mean they used a quality cement? You know, not great. I mean, usually if you're working with a high-end brand, you'll be breaking your fingernails trying to peel it off like this. So not fantastic. Yeah, that could be a function of how well was this cleaned. Now this looks like it had been brushed, or buffed. You know, looking at the strobel edge, you know, I can see this material is kind of thick. So there's some lumps there, and that maybe is what stopped the rubber from landing all the way down to make that kind of gap. But you know, not great. Now here's the other thing. I didn't talk about this before, but this is actually a nice touch. There is a little reinforcing material fused on to the back here, and this does a couple of things. You know, it also keeps the upper up off your toenails, which is important, right? You don't really want the upper pushing on the end of your toenail. That's not such a comfortable thing. It also stops your toenail from putting a hole in this mesh, because that would be really a bummer when you're running downhill in a shoe like this. It has a lot of space in it. You're likely to be moving around inside. And this shoe has to fit you close, right? It really needs to fit you close, because if you're sliding around in it, in this big open toe box, there's nothing, you know, to stop you from sliding forward. I mean, you really have to get this thing nice and tight, particularly, like I said, when going downhill. because otherwise your toenail is gonna burn through this material. I know this looks thick, and you say that won't be an issue, but generally, if you're pushing, you think about, on an average day, you take 10,000 steps. Not that you're going to wear this shoe every day all the time, but you want these shoes to last, so you want to make sure that they have a little reinforcing here. And even though the whole idea behind this shoe is soft and flexibility, you do want to make sure that you put something back here, either in a leather shoe or a mesh shoe. You want to put something there because that toenail is going to want to put a hole in your shoe from the inside out. So it's pretty important that you take care of that. All right. So nice touch there. So folks, that's what a barefoot shoe looks like. I mean, there's not a whole, I mean, yeah, we've been talking about this shoe for what, half an hour already, or there's not a lot to talk about. There's no midsole here. I mean, there is this little piece of foam, right? And this is what I'll just measure it just for kicks. What is that? Half a millimeter? Okay, maybe 1 millimeter, maybe 1 millimeter of foam, which you ask yourself, 1 millimeter, why bother, right? Why bother? So in general, for a shoe like this, be careful of the surfaces that you're wearing it on. I wouldn't go running on concrete with a shoe like this, because I mean, this is it. You basically have the cushioning of a footbed, and then the rubber. And this rubber feels generally a little bit soft. I mean, I could get a gauge out here and measure it. It's probably somewhere in the 60s. But hey, folks, that's what the inside of a barefoot shoe looks like. Hey, if you enjoyed this video, there's plenty more. Please visit the website, Shoemakers Academy. We've got shoe design books. We've got the shoe material design guide where we talk about this kind of shoe. And we have an entire course on shoe material design. So if you're interested in becoming a designer or a product manager, or you want to start your own shoe company, this is a fantastic resource for you to basically stand on the shoulders of giants and see, hey, how does Converse, what do they put inside their shoe? What is inside the classic Vans or the classic Nike shoes? Or even if you want to see what goes on inside of a rock climbing shoe. We have it here in the shoe material design guide. And this is all available at Shoemakers Academy. Really, thanks a lot. Please hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more. Thank you.